Hello and welcome to Never a Truer Word. And we are live tonight for this one. Thank you very much for joining us. Great to see so many familiar faces already in the chat. Hi, Lena. Hi, Sheila. Thank you both for getting involved. Listen, if you are new here or if you are a regular consumer of the content here, I'm Jack, and this is Never a Truer Word. And I look at the words and statements that people make, and only the words and statements that people make. So I strip away everything else to try to understand what it is that we're being told. I've been doing this for years and working with investigators, working with the media, legal and corporate clients, digging into what people are saying. And we're going to deal with the story of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Two missing children went missing on the 2nd of May. Well, they were reported missing on the 2nd of May. So we will see what we find about that as we go through the words. And we're going to, well, I've analysed already in detail the words of the mum, and I think the only interview that she has given, and also the stepfather, Daniel, he has given a few more interviews than the mom has. What we're going to do is we're going to dig into them and look at the common themes that these guys had across everything that they said. And then I've got some new statements. One of those, or a couple of those, are from Dan, which I think shed some new light on what is going on. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One of these is that when children go missing, when anyone goes missing, people look at the nearest and dearest, or to the nearest people to the people who go missing, and very often look at them suspiciously, kind of by default, because, hey, the suspicion should fall on that person, shouldn't it? And so this is a way of teaching people what to look for when someone's talking about this, because really they could be a concerned, just innocent person standing next to it, or they could have some guilty knowledge, or they could be hiding something. And looking at the words that someone uses as they're doing it, then that is how you can understand, is this person being truthful or likely truthful, or is this person being deceptive? So we will go through all of that as we go. The other reason is, for me, this is about raising awareness, and not in some very cliched, trite way. But if there's anything I can do or anything we can do to shed some light on things by looking at the words and help find these children, then I am all up for that. So let's dive on in. Now, it is live, as I say. One of the reasons that I go live is so that we can have the interaction. So I've got all the comments open there. And if you've got any questions or comments or observations, then I will do my very best to come to those. Right. So let's, oh, by the way, you are here, so could you do one thing, and that is press the like button. What that does is just helps this get to so many more people. And I think with those aims that I have of teaching people how to understand a bit more about the words that people use, and also helping in any way that I can with a sincere wish that these children are found safe, then that would be great. Thank you very much for pressing that like button. Okay, let's dig into the common themes then between the mom, who is Malehya Brooks-Murray, and Daniel Martell, the stepfather. As I said, the mom, Malehya, she's given one interview. Daniel's done a hell of a lot more, but there are some common themes between them. And shall we go with the reassuring ones first? And that is, both of the parents, when they were talking, both of them spoke about the kids in the present tense when they were there. So this is the mom here, and she says they're both really go-lucky children. So that's present tense. They are both really go-lucky children. They're so sweet. They talk to anyone. So this is all present tense. They'll talk your ear off, is what they say. So it's what the mom says. So that is all present tense, and that's such a reassuring thing to hear from someone, because very often when someone is talking with guilty knowledge that the person they're talking about is dead, or they believe the person they're talking about is dead, then they will start using the past tense to refer to that person. And let's just look at the stepfather, and he says, and again in the present tense, they hate being wet and cold. So he doesn't say they did hate being wet and cold. He talks in the present tense about them as well. So we have that first reassuring thing, that both parents are talking about the children in the present tense. Now, that for me is reassuring. Didn't see much more reassuring from the mom, from Malehya, but I did see something more reassuring from the dad, and that was or the stepfather. Apologies, I'm going to make that mistake all the time. I'm sure about it, but Daniel is the stepfather, and that he is very open to anybody coming through with information to the police. Quite often with guilty people, they don't talk about it at all because they really don't want anyone coming forward to the police, or they know the futility of anyone coming forward to the police. Or if they do talk about it, then they talk about it in the ways that are very qualified. So if you know anything that might be important, or you've seen anything 10 miles away, then do get in touch. I can't remember who it was. Was it Scott Peterson or Chris Watts? Was very good at that one of asking for help from the public, but in a very, very qualified and peculiar way that would have stopped most people coming forward and asking for it. And here we have Daniel saying, anybody who has information or you think has seen something or hear something or any messages from friends about hearing something, just contact your local police services. Anything, guys, anything. So this guy is really open to people coming forward and talking to the police. So another reassuring thing there. And I know, and one of the things I want to do here is I've done a couple of episodes on this already, which have had thousands of comments, much too many to take in, much too many for me to respond to. So I know that some people mentioned a polygraph test there, and we're going to look at that a little bit later on in this episode as well, because Daniel, well, does he or doesn't he want to do a polygraph test? We will talk about that as we go on in this episode. So let's look at some of the themes that, less reassuring, or maybe just provide some more info on what has happened. And the biggest one of those for me, the thing I noticed straight away with the mom, and then this continued with the stepfather when I looked at him, was the theme of noise. So the mom has only done one interview, so let's just have a look at that one. And we will see that she just talks about noise and sound all the time. So the very first thing she says is, what happened? We woke up. I heard them playing in the next room. So she's talking about sound already. I heard them playing in the next room. And what people talk about a lot can reveal a lot about what is going on inside their mind, because the words that relate to the things that are in their mind will leak out or come out when they talk. So she talks about the sliding door, and she says, and we can't hear it when it opens. The next thing we knew, it was quiet. So you can't hear the door, and then it was quiet. So she's talking about sound continually. And then she says, I said to Daniel, I tell him, do you hear the kids? So again, we have this sense of noise there. Do you hear the kids? Then she talks about the children, and she says, they're both really go-lucky children. They're so sweet. They talk to anyone. They'll talk your ear off. So we have so much there about sound from the mom. They'll speak to anyone. So again, we have sound going on there from the mom. And is that the last thing? People texting me saying they haven't aware of anyone else. I haven't heard from anyone else. So again, we've got from the mom more about the theory of the concept of sound. We have more sound from Daniel's multiple interviews. So he says he was screaming as loud as I can until my throat hurt. So we have sound again here. Then he mentions again that he was screaming their name until my throat hurt. So once more, we have the sound back from the guy. In that appeal to the police we spoke about, he says, if you have seen something or hear something or messages from friends about hearing something. So wow, we have hearing big time from this guy. They're all about sound there as well. And then in an article, he says, as soon as I noticed I didn't hear anything, I immediately jumped in my vehicle. So again, it's so much on the sound. He talks about the sliding door as well. It's virtually silent when you try and open it. So I've no doubt, whatever that means, that sound plays a big part in what is going on here. And I think one of the reasons for that is, well, why is the sound there? What does the sound mean? I think, well, what are the possibilities? It could be that sound was involved in the disappearance, for example, as I said. And what I really hope happens is there was a loud argument, or there was lots of talking, or arguments about the noise that the kids make, and there's some confrontation, and the kids have gone off somewhere. But there could be a lot more about sound. The mention of screaming could be about a much more violent confrontation, if you like, or something that happened that involved a lot of sound. So that is sound is really interesting. Let me just have a look through the comments here, and dig into some of them. So Bron says, no one could beat the squeal of Lily. That was ear piercing. So I haven't heard this myself, Bron, but I have heard about this, that there is a video of Lily. Is it a birthday party or a party or something like that? And she is making a lot of noise. So I think that is potential there. The noise these kids made is just incredibly memorable to them. We also have Martina there. When you are searching for someone, you should not be screaming. You will not hear them respond. Martina, that's a great observation. And I think when Daniel was talking as well, I mentioned this in the analysis of him. He talks about running through the woods a lot. He was running through the woods and running through the woods. And again, I was like, is that the best way to search for something? If you are running, then you can't see them. You can't spot any nuances. You can't spot any little clues or anything like that. Running doesn't feel like the best way of searching. Screaming doesn't find the best way of searching as well. Let's look at this from Starsgood. To be fair, when my kids were young and playing in a different room, when they became silent, I immediately went to see what they were doing. Always it was in that play, they were whispering or being quiet. Yeah, we are, as people, we're exception machines. So we don't really notice the noise as it's happening, unless it's very noisy. But if it's just the usual babble of kids, we don't notice it. It's background noise. We notice the exceptions. We notice when things stop. So I'm not saying, wow, these guys didn't hear the kids, so they must be liars. That's not what I'm saying at all. I believe... Do I believe? It's believable, the story that they say, which is that they noticed when the noise stopped. But yes, I'm sure that noise is absolutely a thing that goes on here. And one more. Bron again says, they were telling Lily to be quiet because the baby needed to get some sleep. Dad said it in an article. Right. Well, I've only got your word for that, Bron. That doesn't mean I doubt you. It's just that I like to verify everything that I talk about. But again, can you see what I mean about noise being very important in this story? And look, if they were telling Lily to be quiet because the baby needed to sleep, there's noise at the center, potentially of some stress or some confrontation as well. So yeah, look, noise, I really do think is at the center of this. And Nikki, hi Nikki, thank you for this. Both kids screamed a lot. I think screaming kids could well be at the center of this. So things that both parents mention a lot, concepts they both mention a lot, are noise, lack of noise sometimes, but all the concept of sound and noise. The other thing is both of them want to tell us and show us that they had a fast reaction to when they noticed that the kids were not there. So they both use persuasive language. Now, I'm going to talk you through some of this persuasive language and say, why is that there? So let's look through the mom talking about this, and she talks about it a couple of times. So this will be let's take that one out. Let's put that one in. This is the mom that I want to talk about here. So let's look at her words. And she talks about immediately getting out there and doing something. So he says, no, this is, we don't hear the kids. We get up instantly. We're looking outside. We're looking everywhere. I'm yelling for them. And I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call. Now, if you look at that sentence without instantly in there, I asked, do you hear the kids? He says, no. We get up, we're looking outside, and I call 911. I had the instinct I needed to call. The meaning would be the exact same. They noticed no noise. They got up and they went looking and called 911. However, she's added in instantly, which I think is added in there to show us how fast she moved. Now, why does she feel the need to tell us how fast they moved? we kind of understand that when your children are missing, you move quickly. It's a panic situation. So why does she feel the need to tell us that she went instantly to look for them and instantly call 911? One reason is that potentially this wasn't that instant. Potentially, the missing children, the children were missing a little bit longer, although they knew they didn't act straight away on realizing the children were missing. But it's very important to her to come across as a big, great mom who moved instantly on this one. It's the exact same thing we get from Daniel. Because he says, we noticed the children were gone, immediately jumped in the vehicle. So again, he wants to persuade us and show us how fast it was that he moved. So he uses the word immediately. So both parents have this need to tell us how fast that they moved. Again, it's not quite the immediately thing, but when Dan is talking about the search, he says, I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones, as if, look how fast I was moving. Look how quickly I reacted to all this. I was ahead of the police. I was ahead of the search teams. Here he says, as soon as I seen they were missing, I jumped right in the vehicle. So again, this is him trying to show how fast he moved. Corinne, I'll let your comment here. Sorry, Braun, I'll let your comment. Braun, you seem to be top commenter of this live. The concept with good parents would do this regardless of what they did reminds me of Summer Wells. Yeah, it's a real need to show us that they were good parents. We moved immediately. We did things really quickly. We always checked on them when they were playing outside, is the stuff that comes on there. Let's look at Corinne's comment, because it is worth talking about. And also, I sort of dissed it a bit to Corinne, so sorry for that. The neighbors said there was a big blowout party on Thursday night. I think the parents were sleeping off a hangover, and the kids might have gotten into some leftover alcohol or drugs. Now, I can't talk to that because I only look at the words. I did spot some evidence of potential neglect, and especially the mother's words, where some of the first things she did are what we call resume statements, which is tell us how great a mom she was. In fact, should we just look at that, saying as it is pertinent to the comment that you made. So this is an interview she gave. This is verbatim, and she starts telling us what happens, which is, we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep. Then she talks about how great the kids are. They're not the type of kids. Then she stops talking about what type of kids they are. You'll notice there, she doesn't tell us they're not the type of kids, whatever it is. She thinks better of that. She doesn't want to finish that off. So she tells us what a great parent, or what great unit of parents they are. We tell them not to go outside on their own. Now, why does she feel the need to persuade us that these guys are great parents? Why doesn't she just tell us what happened? Because your kids are missing. How good or bad parents you are doesn't really matter at this moment in time. We always make sure that we're out with them, watching them. So yeah, she does have that need to persuade us that she's a great parent, which always makes me think that potentially there is some abuse or neglect going on. So repeated concepts we've been speaking about. The first one was noise, comes up in their words a lot. The fast reaction that they talk about comes up a lot as well. And the next one is really curious to me, and that is water there. It's just very, very curious why water would come up. So the mom said, it's been raining, so mention of water, and they're probably soaking wet, but with the sun today, I'm hopeful that they are feeling warm. So this was the first mention of water, and that came up in the mom's interview. And then when I looked at what Dan said, well, he mentions water and water-related concepts a lot. So here, he says that he searched dirt roads and culverts as he waited to get for the police to get here. Now, nothing wrong with the concept of searching dirt roads and culverts. I mean, dirt roads, don't know, yeah, maybe they would have walked down the roads. Culverts, again, I believe it was raining heavily in the area at the time, so looking in culverts is absolutely fine. But what I've got is why all these mentions of water. It really plays heavily on their mind. So there he talks about the culverts, and then Dan goes on to talk about running through water that was up to my waist. So another mention of water. As someone, Lena, actually pointed out to me, it's very hard to run through water that is up to your waist. Did that really happen? Or is this just another attempt at Dan to show us what action man he was in all of this? search. Again, in another interview, he says, I did every dirt road and searched every culvert, so a mention of water there. Then Dan tells us they hate being wet and cold, so they would have come back to the house. Interesting there. Again, water comes into it, and also which child does like being wet and cold? That's why did he feel the need to point out that these children hate being wet and cold? And I think there are some more mentions of water from Dan. Yes, there is. He says that the kids would get in any car as long as you offered them food or water. So we have this repeated concept from these water. So repeated concept of water, repeated fast reaction, repeated noise as well. So Braun, I just see these comments and think I'm going to press on that one because it looks interesting. Braun has come up again. It's like a sort of Braun roulette. I got the sense Dad wanted to be off property until the police got there. Braun, there are words that suggest that. In what Dan says, he does explain why he wasn't around much on the first day. It was because I was searching. He also, there's a bit of strange wording that might make sense, might not make sense, which is he said he waited for the police to get there. Now, that could be waited for the police to get to the house and I wasn't at the house, or it could be that he's talking away from the house. So when he is actually talking, the house is there. But yeah, I got that impression as well, Braun, from the words. Martina, offer them food or water. Were they not well fed? Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. It's a little bit of a cliche, but you would bribe kids to come towards you with candies, which he mentions, sweet tasting thing, treats, money, that sort of thing. Food and water felt like quite a basic way to talk about the way that you would tempt children towards you. I think that was a little bit of an interesting mention of food and water. And I was looking for would the kids not be hungry before 10 a.m.? Kids are always hungry, I think there. And then Sheila brings up the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is a theme across both the ways that the stepdad and the mother talk. Daniel and Malehya never mention the children by name. In any of the interviews I've looked at, neither of them mention the children by name. That will become very more interesting to you with something that we're going to look at in a bit. But look, why is that important? Well, nouns, pronouns, names are all very interesting when we use them because they indicate how we feel about things. So just look at me. If you call me Jack, you like me. It's Jack. I'm a mate. I'm a friend of his. If you call me Jack Fox, then maybe you feel a little bit of distance, or potentially there's a little bit of I don't want to say respect because that sounds quite big-headed, or a bit of formality to calling me Jack Fox. Then if you call me Mr. Fox, there's more formality. And then if you go into pronouns, him. Well, him could be the fact that you've mentioned my name once, so then you just call him him, or it could show a bit of distance and a bit of disdain. You know, it depends how it's said, but I don't want anything to do with him. It could be slightly different. If you call me those things, then that all goes further away and a lot more distant. So it's very, very interesting that I didn't see these guys talk about names once. Now, Laurie says stepdad mentioned their names, but mom didn't. Now, stepdad didn't in anything I saw, but I can't claim that I saw everything or read everything that he said. But certainly, I didn't see names. And the mom's spoken once, as far as I know. If anyone can correct that in the chat, then do let me know. But I just have not heard their names often enough. And it's curious to me that they haven't done that. So, yeah, why did they not mention their names? I was going to click on another Braun comment, but I'm not going there because I think we've done enough. There was a comment there about Jack's nappy. I just realized that it was Jack, the missing child, and not me. I thought it was a derogatory comment. I apologize for that. Joe says, Lily, who is autistic, was screaming at the birthday party because of external stimuli. She would have screamed loud and clear the minute it rained or if there was any change in the environment. It's an interesting thought. I was screaming does seem to be very central to this case, from what I've heard about this. It's all sound, I'm sure, is at the center of this entirely. So listen, those are the reoccurring themes, and I think the truth of what has gone on and what has happened hits around some of these. Noise. The fast reaction, I think it was not quite a fast reaction. I don't think they reacted as quickly as they would like us to believe. So while they both try and persuade us there was a fast reaction, I think there was a delay between them knowing or noticing the children were missing and them alerting the authorities or starting any kind of search. And water as well is a theme there, one which scares me a little bit there. Right. Worrying things there. The different worrying things between both parents. The real worrying thing from the mom was at the very end of her interview, and that was what I call concern for self, where she says, last night was one of the worst nights because I didn't have them in their beds, and I don't want to go through that another night without them. Now, that is really concerning for me because she's expressed no concern there for the missing children, no concern that they will be cold, wet, hungry, scared, in danger, or anything like that at all. Instead, she's expressed concern for how does she feel. And it was a worse night for her, and not because they weren't in their beds, but because I didn't have them in their beds. And I don't want to go through another night without them. Not I want them back. It's not I want them in their beds, or they should be in their beds, or I want them home. It's I don't want to go through another night without them. So in the mom's interview, that concern for self really, really concerned me. Dan, now what did Dan do to concern me? There was less concern for self. So Dan certainly, there was less red flags from him than there was from the mom, which is kind of unusual when you look at the genders of it. He did talk about the stress that he'd been under. He did have a little bit of concern for self, but the things that he said that worried me, well, there was one that really, really concerned me, which is when he says, I have no idea why anyone would want to take them, but they're easy to take. Now, how did he know? This is talking from experience. It could be a slip up. We all slip up. I'm doing a live on YouTube, so I will genuinely slip up. You can clip it if you want and make fun of me. But it could be a slip up. But also, that's, as it's stated, the words he uses, that's the voice of experience. They're easy to take, is what he said. And that really, really concerned me. And then the other thing that concerned me about him was this constant running imagery. We spoke about the running through the water, which would have been hard to do. But then it's all this talk about he wants to run through the woods. He was running through the woods. Now, as someone said somewhere, partly these woods, and I don't know because I'm not a local, but these woods are quite dense, and then it's very, very hard to actually run through those woods. You'd have to take a lot more care there. And he said that he wants to go running through the woods, but there's stuff that has to be coordinated, so I can't just go running through the woods. And that image of running through the woods but just really, really bugged me. And he says it quite a few times there. Let's go to some comments. Martina, why are they having large parties with 3 small children? As a question for them, Martina. Sheila, the sore throat bit was weird. If it was my children, I wouldn't care if my throat was raw. Yeah, I wonder what that was about, because it was a slight concern for self there when he said he was screaming until my throat hurt. And as Martina pointed out earlier, it's maybe not the best way to search for someone. Icon of Ree, people out here in Nova Scotia do not have particularly great command of the English language to start with. These people are poor and uneducated. The guy has a YouTube channel opening Pokemon cards. I agree with that. So that's why icon. When I talk about things like they're easy to find, I do look at both things that could mean. It could just be a misspeak, a misuse of tenses or so on. But you'll notice his tenses are fine everywhere else. So that makes me think he has pretty good grasp of the English language. But there are other reasons why people will say things. It really does sound like he's talking from experience there. It really does sound like he's talking from experience. Now, before we go on to look at some of the other things that I want to look at, it's halfway. So if you haven't pressed the like button, could you do that now? It helps this get out to more people. As I've said, I have two reasons for doing this. Number one is to help people understand what to look for in the language when someone who is reporting someone close to them is missing, to see what it is that they can find, what you can find in their language. And also, I want to just raise awareness, which is a phrase I hate, but I can't think of a better way of doing it. So if you could like this, then that would be great, or share it with other people. That will help this get out to more people. If you are enjoying this, then why not subscribe to the channel? At least once a week, there is a new episode on a Sunday looking at the words of someone in the news, or sometimes a classic true crime story. And that way, you can really upskill yourself in what I think is such a valuable skill, which is seeing deception in someone's words. Also, get in touch, and I'll have a look later. And who would you like me to analyze? Because I know a lot of the audience to this are Canadian and have been getting me messages to analyze people that are cases that I've never heard of before, which is hugely interesting. Let me just see if I can find the one that came in on my phone earlier, which was suggesting a case which I'd never heard of before, but when I dug into it, it was really, really interesting. Here it was. It was Taryn who messaged me with one about Dylan Eller, which is apparently happened quite near to where this case is happening. So if there's anyone you'd like me to have a look at, do let me know if there's anyone you want to hear. And finally, if you want to get a bit more, you want to get early access to episodes, or you want exclusive member-only episodes, you can become a member of the YouTube channel, or you can subscribe. But whatever you do, thank you for being here. Shall we have a look at the new words? And we're going to start with something that I haven't looked at before from Dan Martell. And it's a quote. They searched every rock, every root, everything. I have been giving them every detail, everything from my bank account statements to all the information that came off my Google Maps. I just want to clear it up for everyone, not just the people online making crazy accusations and everything else. So, what have I got in that? Well, first of all, the fact that he's going to extremes is interesting to me. You'll notice there, it's not, they've done a lot of searching, they've searched in a lot of places. It's every rock, every root, everything, which he talks about, which is, well, when people talk in extremes, more often than not, for a start, it's not true. You know, when you tell someone, I've tried everything, you probably haven't tried the hard thing or the smart thing. Do you know what I mean? Like when you say, I've tried everything, I haven't tried everything. And that's the sort of thing, when people talk in these extremes, that is interesting. Every rock, every root. Now, that is a mind-blowing statement within itself. Every nook, cranny, river, side, tree, I don't know, but he's zoned in on rocks and roots for some reason. I get that there is a lot of rocks and a lot of roots there, but that is an extremely interesting concept for him to bring up. Corrine has come up with a comment here. That was the biggest red flag for me, because he seems to be explaining or trying to convince people what happened. Innocent people don't do that. Corrine, agree. I would always, when we're looking at words, say innocent people in general don't do that. There is a concept with Daniel here, which is entirely possible, which is that he knows, and you can see here he's talking about people making crazy accusations online. He knows people are suspicious of him because, well, number one, some of the things he says are questionable. Number two, it's very natural suspicion falls on those closest there, which would include the stepdad. I guess being a stepdad sometimes makes people even more suspicious. Now, if he feels that suspicion, he's going to try and do his best to get that suspicion off him, whether that suspicion is valid or whether that suspicion is invalid. So sometimes he's going to say things that may be the same things as a guilty person would say, because both the innocent person and the guilty person in that situation would want that suspicion taken away from them. However, I still think there are some curious things here. So every rock and every root, he's talking about everything. And then he says, I've given them every detail, everything from my bank account statements to all the information that came off Google Maps. So again, he's talking in these extremes. So he's really trying hard to convince us how helpful he's been by talking about everything. I've given them every detail. We know that's a lie. We know that's deceptive because it's impossible for him to have given them close to every detail. And I'm not saying that because he's being deceptive and he's hiding things. It just can't be true. No one can get every detail or give every detail, but he's going to these extremes because he has this need to convince. He's given them everything. So again, an extreme. From my bank account statements to all the information that came off my Google Maps. Now, the ordering of that is interesting there, because well, I don't know what bank account statements would have to do with missing children. Why giving the police his bank account statements would show anything unless it was to prove that he hadn't traveled because he hadn't bought fuel or he hadn't been out of the area buying food outside the area. I really don't know, but it's the first thing that he thinks to mention of those two things is the bank account statements. Maybe that's because it was the easiest thing to give because there's nothing incriminating in these bank account statements. So yeah, have all of them. And all the information that came off my Google Maps, bit vague there. All the information that came off my Google Maps. Now, is that just the places you've searched for? Or is that, I don't know, Google Maps, does it track where you've been and all that information has been given to them? I mean, do you know what I mean? Like all the information that came off my Google Maps is not very descriptive. It's not, all the places I've been or all the places I've searched on Google Maps. It's very interesting. But the first thing he mentions is bank statements, which doesn't seem to be that relevant to me. And then all the information that came off my Google Maps. And then he says, I just want to clear it up for everyone, not just the people online making crazy accusations and everything else. So he says, I just want to clear it up. We've got the word just there, and Sheila spotted it. It's the word just, which always gets me on alert for what the hell is going on here, because just is often used to divert our attention onto a very small thing that is happening, or to move our attention, or not to get attention on something. Oh, it's just this, so we'll move on and we'll do something different. But I just want to clear it up for everyone. Clear it up. Clear it up. Not find the kids is the most important thing to him now. Clearing it up, as in clear up what happened or clear up his involvement in it. But again, from another one of the parents, the priority, excuse me, let me have a drink. The priority is not finding the kids there at all. It is, that sort of stuff really worries me. The concern is more for himself and getting these observations away from himself. Jenny, when did someone other than the parents see these kids? I've asked multiple times on multiple channels, but I don't think we have an answer yet. I don't know, but yeah, I'd really like to know that as well, because there just seems to be so much unknown there. Norbeaster says, what bothers me is there's no pleading to the abductor to give them anything for their safe return. I think actually in everything I've seen, they, for some reason, think that there is no abductor. The mom rules it out. And I think Daniel as well says that he sees no reason why someone would abduct them as well. They seem, and also both of them in their language give the impression they think the kids are out there, which I think, if you think that your children have been abducted, you might imagine them, if not safe, at least sheltered, so that you wouldn't think of them as being out there. But for some reason, they both think that the children are out there. Wherever out there is, it's not in and it's not sheltered. I haven't taken that drink yet. Hold on a second. That is better. So Daniel concerning me with his words there. Right. I just Yes, I've just screwed up my screen so I couldn't actually see what was happening, which when you're analyzing words is a big deal. Right, here we go now on to talking about the polygraph. And Daniel says, I asked for that early on, and there are not many places to do that in Canada, so they are flying somebody in. So that's the words that I have for him on the polygraph. Now, the very first thing I noticed there, I've highlighted it, was this concept of early on. This thing that he wants to be the first mover and the first person to do something, as if, look, how ahead of things I am. There's no suspicion here. I'm actually moving faster than anyone else, is what that feels like to me there. And then, is he doing a polygraph? Well, look, he doesn't say he's going to do one. He just says they're flying somebody in. But he is actually talking about it. And just like with the police information, then there is an element here of upfrontness with Daniel that we certainly didn't see from the mom. I do feel like there is a bit more openness to him to finding out information. So it could be that thing I'm talking about, where some of the things that he says about how hard he's been searching, how fast he moved, are because he wants to get suspicion off his back, and not necessarily because he's guilty and wants people to look elsewhere, but because it's very important to him. Laurie's comment here, this is just about when people last saw the kids. The parents stated that Lily had a cold. Is it possible they may have been looking for something to eat in the kitchen and maybe found cold medicine? I mean, anything is possible, Laurie, I think. But one day I hope that we find out what happened. So that is Daniel and those new things there. I'm kind of reassured on that polygraph thing. I mean, he hasn't done a polygraph. He hasn't passed a polygraph. He hasn't told us the results of a polygraph, but he has offered to do that. But again, we have this mention of moving early on, and the fact that he wants to clear this up. It's all a bit concerning there. And then finally, I found something from the bus driver who would take the kids to school by bus. Now, I've had to quote the full article here, so I won't be analysing the words that the journalist has used. I'll be analysing the quotes, but the full article just gave us some context here. The bus driver said, the journalist said about the bus driver, he described the kids as full of life, always smiling and laughing. Lily would let out these high-pitched squeals, he said, so we have the noise thing coming again, as Lily let out the high-pitched squeals. So even away from the mom and the stepdad talking about the kids, noise comes into these kids again. And he said, I get after her all the time. Lily, you can't be doing that. He also described her as a bit of a drama queen. If she had a sore foot, she'd say her foot was broken, he said with a laugh. Now, children get sore feet. Trust me, I know that more than most. But I'm going to hold on to that thought of sore foot when you see what else the bus driver has to say. Jack sometimes fell asleep on the way home from school, but more often he was chatty. Again, noise coming from the kids. Talkative, noise, chatty. He'd say, bus driver, hey, Mr. Bus Driver, Mr. Ward recalled. If he was trying to talk to you and he couldn't get your attention, the little bugger would take his boot off and throw it at you. Jack is famous for throwing his boots at me. So we have the child talking again, trying to talk to you. So once more, words, noise comes up here from this from these kids. You'll notice the bus driver, not the mother, the bus driver mentions the kids by name, calls the girl Lily and calls the boy Jack. So that's what I mean about how the words that we use, the names or the pronouns that we use, can be very instructive to what it is that we're analyzing. And here we have the bus driver using the names of the kids, but not the mother. And then the other thing I've noticed there is big behaviors from these kids. So not just loud, but if you didn't talk to Jack, he'd throw his boot at you. Well, that is childish behavior, but it's a big behavior for a child. And the same with Lily. If she had a sore foot, she'd say her foot was broken. So we get an insight here, I think. And look, this is not victim blaming, and we do not even know if these children are victims yet. But what we've got is an insight into these kids maybe being a lot, taking a lot of care, and some kids would maybe be stressful to look after, take a lot of patience or something like that, if that is the behavior of the kids. So those are the new words that I've got to look at. I thought very interesting. The bus driver using the names and just talking about how much noise these children made and how much talk these children made, and also some more from Dan. So let's have a look and see if we've got any comments today, which was this one. Elsie New, I heard a clip of the stepdad today saying there's no evidence of them in the lakes. I do not like the fact that he used the word evidence. I don't like. Oh, that one really concerns me. I agree with you. Evidence is really concerning, yes, because evidence is a very procedural word, and also it means we often use it to mean evidence of a crime. So I do not like that one either. But again, this is in extremes. There's no evidence of them in the lakes. Again, so far. Or they haven't found any yet, or they've been looking for a while and haven't found any, or anything like that. It's just this extreme. There is no evidence of them in the lakes, and also we don't know the question that was asked to engender this response, but mention of water again. There's no evidence of them in the lakes. So thank you very much for that one, Elsie, because that's one of the most concerning things I've heard Daniel say. So yeah, thank you for that. Sheila there, she spotted it. Sheila spots it all. I wouldn't like to get into an argument with Sheila. There's the water references again. We also have Stella J. Magnet fishers should be looking near overpasses over water and for short culverts. I do think that's not a real bad bit of advice, Stella J, because I do think that we have water at the heart of this. Martina, I can answer this story. Does stepdad have a criminal history? He was picked up on a drug charge, I think 2011, something like that, like a long time ago, that didn't come to anything. I think that is all that he is known for with law enforcement. So I really don't think he does have that much of a criminal history. Here we go with Angel. Autistic kids have a habit of wandering and drawn to water. I did not know that, Angel. Thank you for that. Is that maybe you can answer, is that water as in bodies of water like the sea, rivers, lakes and so on, or is that all sorts of water? So would they want to go out in the rain or something like that, Angel? It's not something I knew, but very interesting. Thank you for that. Any other comments anyone would like to make on the words that are there? Yeah, I mean, this is a great point. Colin, have they interviewed the mother and brother? I haven't seen anything, but I'm not across absolutely everything that's in the media. But look, you will find on this YouTube channel ways of getting in touch with me. If you do spot anyone else around these kids talking that you think is interesting, then please do get in touch and ask me to have a look at it, because this is a case that I personally feel quite invested in, and I know a lot of the audience are as well. So if you do spot anyone talking, then that would be great if you could share that with me. Mama Bear, mother is so questionable. I like the way you've left it questionable. I think all we can do when we look at these is ask questions and say, why are they talking that way? What's going on there? I think sometimes people raise so many red flags that it's obvious something is going on. I think that when those red flags are raised and you have all those questions, look at the concepts that are being repeated, the noise, the water, the need to move fast. That will help get you towards the truth. Michelle, Daniel also said they didn't like being cold and wet. Jack's pull-up would be soaked by now. It doesn't even bear thinking about, Michelle, does it? It's yeah. BMX as DGFDFG, whatever that means, but great name. The roots can be roots of a trees. A couple of years back, we had a hurricane and many trees came dislodged. I understood it was roots of a trees. Actually, I don't know why I understood it was roots of a trees, because he just used the word roots, maybe because he was talking about forests. What my point on that really was is that the two places he said that were searched were rocks and roots and nothing else. Nothing like gullies or the culverts or anything like that. In that quote there, he only talked about rocks and routes. It's really interesting as to why he did that. Kathy, he is dealing with law enforcement right now, and they probably said there is no evidence of them in the lake. That's a really good point. Sometimes our language can reflect the words that we have been told. Especially look for that in questions, where if someone asks a question and someone gives a response that is mirrors the question back and uses the words there, well, it wasn't the person answering the question who brought in those words. It was the person doing the interview that brought up those words. I feel the police have something, and they are just crossing their T's and dotting their I's, says Tam. It does. Look, I don't know. I'm not a local. I've seen some very good police searches. I've seen some very bad ones. This one seems a very peculiar one there. Stephanie is a local. So she says there, she doesn't say hiya, Jack. That was someone else who said hiya, Jack. Let me see if I can find Stephanie's comment. There it is. There are many routes and downfall left from the hurricane. I'm in Pictou County. Thank you very much for watching tonight, Stephanie, and thank you very much for that. Right, we'll do one or two last questions from your comments, or one or two last observations from your comments. In the meantime, do not forget that like button. It does help this get to so many other people. Lady Kate, the way the mother talked, does she have some form of adult autism by her speaking and by separating herself and talking in the third person? I cannot diagnose that at all, Lady Kate. I'm not qualified to diagnose that in someone's words. It's entirely possible that is the case. All I can say is what I spot in someone's words. With the mother, I didn't like very much of them. And what do we have here? Angel, could the mother be a witness, and that is why she has distanced herself? Yeah, she could be it strikes me that either of them could be a witness to something and are covering up for the other party, if that makes sense. I can't say specifically what made me think that in the words a bar. In fact, I think it's kind of, let's just look at it now, because I think this is where it came from. So this is when the mother was talking, and she speaks so often about we. What happened was we woke up. We tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure we're out there with them watching. We can't hear it when the door opens. We weren't aware of it at the time, but the next thing we knew, the room was quiet. We get up instantly. We're looking outside. We're looking everywhere. So she talks about we a lot. And what that can show is not a story that comes from her own experience, where if I'm telling you what happened to me today, I'm actually pointing at it. I went down the road to a Starbucks to get a coffee. So I left the house. I walked through the park. I walked down the main road. I turned off and I had a cappuccino. So it's all from I. And she talks about we. So why is that? Well, we say we because we do things together. So me and my other half went to the same Starbucks on Sunday. We went out the front door. We went through the park. We went down the road. We turned off and we had some drinks. So I would talk about we then when we both did something. However, when she's talking about we there, some of them are quite individual actions, like we woke up. We don't tend to wake up at the exact same time unless there is a bang noise. We noticed they were missing. She actually says she noticed they'd gone quiet, and then it was we did all that. So one of the reasons that can be is, let's get our story straight. Okay, what did we do this morning? What do we tell them? And therefore the story all becomes from we. So I think that's why there could be a little bit more. Martina, in my opinion, there was collusion between the two to cover something up, but now they are separated and nobody is snitching on the other yet. And that case, Martina, you'd have to ask yourself, do both of them lose, even if one of them snitches? That would be, my thoughts on that one. I think that's enough. That's nearly an hour. Thank you so much for your comments. That has been fascinating, especially the ones from the locals on the ground who have a little bit more information and a little bit more context to add to that. So thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much for being here. Please do share this or like this so that this gets to as many people as possible. Don't forget, if you want to get more episodes like this, we might come back to this case if there are more statements to analyze. But otherwise, what I do is cover the words of people in the news. So it could be missing children, missing people. It could be the Diddy trial that we come to next, or something like that. Then do subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you want to dig any further, you can get all the details on neveratruerword.com. So thank you very much for joining me for this, and we will see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word. Thank you.